Ain't nobody, they can't fire me. I make too much money to get fired. So they can't fire me. First of all, they fire me, they got to pay me for 7 years, and I'm gonna quit way before then. But if they want to fire me, I would love for them to do that.
I want you to win, but I don't want you to win more than me. Now, see, if you win more than me, now I got to question your sexuality.
Yeah.
I got to question, how black are you? Because, bro, I'm like, come on, man. I mean,
but that's because you fools on other networks, which we gonna become fools next year. We be working on that network. But Oklahoma City and the Cavs been balling for 6 months.
There appears to be some internal tension unfolding that could finally explain Charles Barkley's recent assertive steps at ESPN and Shannon Sharpe's apparent decline in the midst of T first. Most observers saw this as coincidence. Shannon stepping back just as Barkley was gaining visibility. However, fresh rumors and leaked audio hint at a deeper story playing out behind the curtain. It seems the situation may involve jealousy, behind-the-scenes maneuvering, and a strategic move that ultimately misfired. Reports now suggest that Shannon Sharpe may have quietly tried to obstruct Barkley's potential deal with ESPN during a time when Sharpe himself was dealing with serious professional challenges, including a widely publicized lawsuit and several off-camera missteps. Here's where things become more compelling. Despite Barkley's reputation for controversial takes, spontaneous comments, and even his recent critiques of ESPN, the network seems to be granting him increased authority with no visible disciplinary action or public pushback. This raises the question, why is ESPN continuing to support Charles Barkley while Shannon Sharpe appears to be gradually pushed aside? Did Shannon actively work to have Barkley removed? Is this a simple case of professional rivalry, or are more nuanced factors influencing events behind the scenes? Let's break it down. Sources connected to ESPN indicate that Shannon Sharpe hasn't been comfortable with Barkley's rising influence at the network. Barkley's unfiltered approach, honest commentary, and enduring popularity made him a strong fit after TNT lost its NBA broadcasting rights. Reportedly, Sharpe already facing intense scrutiny after a lawsuit involving a woman allegedly just out of her teens began to feel pressure as Barkley was rumored to be stepping into a broader role. It is suggested that Sharpe may have tried to sway ESPN leadership in private in an effort to slow or block Barkley's progress. In other words, an alleged attempt at sabotage. Furthermore, there are claims that Sharpe shared details about Barkley's previous controversies with executives, possibly to create concern and prevent his rise at the network, but this effort appears to have backfired.
He said the Lakers, first of all, the Lakers have had a great 2 weeks. He said the Lakers saved the NBA season. That's because them fools on the other network, which we're going to be working for next year, that's all they talk about.
Here's the unexpected part. While Shannon may have been focused on highlighting Barkley's past issues, the reality is that Barkley's controversies aren't some distant memory. They're fairly recent and widely known, yet ESPN doesn't appear to be concerned. Let's take a step back. In 2022, Charles Barkley signed a major deal with TNT 10 years for $210 million. But even with that significant contract, Barkley was upfront from the start. He didn't plan to stick around for the full term. He said publicly that he might only stay for another 2 years, stressing the importance of work-life balance. Barkley made it clear he isn't willing to stretch himself thin for any network.
And I've been going back and forth with TNT for the last 2 months, whether I'm gonna work 2 years or 3 years. But if I really wanted to, I could stay for 7 years, which there's no chance of that happening. Zero.
And if there was any doubt, Barkley drove the point home with a pointed comment about ESPN's heavy workload demands. He remarked, "I ain't going to be working like no dog like Stephen A. Smith." That wasn't just a casual remark, it was Barkley drawing a line, signaling that he wasn't interested in ESPN's high-pressure environment.
I'm not taking no job when I know how, number one, the most important thing is how much I'm going to work. That's been my biggest gripe, to be honest with you. Like, well, how much am I going to work? I mean, the notion that I'm gonna work more as I get older, that's just not gonna happen.
You think statements like that would make ESPN hesitant, but instead, they embraced him. They gave him a spot in their NBA coverage and offered him creative freedom. There's more. Barkley has raised valid concerns about the direction ESPN might take with the Inside the NBA format. He's worried the show could lose its charm, replaced by too many ads, overly rigid structure, and a loss of the spontaneity that made it unique. And that's where things start to get tricky. It's not just fans who are uneasy about this change. Industry analysts, commentators, and even Barkley himself have openly expressed what many are thinking. ESPN might not handle the transition well. To be fair, ESPN has long been known for its polished image, controlled content, and corporate tone. In contrast, TNT gave Barkley space to be himself. At ESPN, the expectation is often to stick to the script, read the teleprompter, and maintain the brand's messaging. That's never been Barkley's way. He even publicly criticized a new TNT spin-off pilot, calling it the stupidest S I've ever seen. Normally, such blunt criticism would result in someone quietly being let go. But Barkley? He's still involved, still backed by major platforms. Even after criticizing ESPN for pushing Anthony Edwards as the NBA's next big star before he had truly earned it, there were no suspensions, no public backlash. Everything just moved forward as usual.
I've been telling y'all that for 2 months. Hey, ESPN, I love you guys. Don't try to make Anthony Edwards the face of the NBA. The face of the NBA is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Joker, and Giannis. You can't give it to people. They have to take it.
Now, picture being in Shannon Sharpe's position. He was reportedly close to finalizing a $100 million contract until a lawsuit, an Instagram live slip-up, and increasing reports of internal friction at ESPN changed everything. Then Charles Barkley, despite openly criticizing ESPN's approach, enters the scene and not only gets elevated but also receives support and protection from the network. It's understandable that Shannon is said to be frustrated. The difference in how both individuals are being treated is difficult to overlook. Things get even more layered. Rumors suggest that after Barkley learned Shannon had allegedly tried to interfere with his ESPN opportunity, he made a pointed on-air remark about being too expensive and basically unfireable. And to be clear, that wasn't hearsay. He actually said it.
Ain't nobody, they can't fire me. I make too much money to get fired. So they can't fire me. First of all, they fire me, they got to pay me for 7 years, and I'm going to quit way before then. But if they want to fire me, I would love for them to do that.
That single comment made an impression. It wasn't just Barkley showing confidence, it felt like a subtle warning, a clear reminder of his leverage. Barkley knows his worth, and more importantly, he understands ESPN's current reliance on his presence. That seems to be where the real strain begins. Instead of focusing on rebuilding his public standing, Shannon appears to be responding by pushing back against Barkley. But according to sources, the response feels more reactive than strategic, driven by pressure rather than a clear plan. Insiders say once Barkley learned about Shannon's alleged interference, he wasn't amused. While Barkley typically avoids internal conflicts, he reportedly told close associates that he had no interest in getting involved in any behind-the-scenes games. Barkley isn't one to engage in office drama, but when he's dissatisfied, he makes that known. And while Barkley is finalizing a long-term contract and staying the course, Shannon's situation is increasingly being viewed as an example of self-inflicted setbacks.
Let me tell y'all something.
Tell me something.
And first of all, I want all the smoke. I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard or anything like that.
I don't whistle when I walk by the graveyard.
Right.
I like that.
Hey,
one.
man.
I'm stealing that one.
The Lakers are doing great.
Let's now address the central issue, the $50 million lawsuit. A woman named Gabriela Zuniga has accused Shannon Sharpe of sexual assault and intimidation, claiming their alleged relationship began when she was barely of legal age. The full picture hasn't emerged yet, but the lawsuit has already had a significant impact on his public and professional standing. And to complicate matters further, just weeks before the legal action became public, Shannon mistakenly left an Instagram live running, and the footage did little to help his image.
Come on, man.
In all sincerity, I'm extremely embarrassed that a very, very private, intimate situation, the audio can...
Let's just say the Instagram live incident featured behavior that left many viewers surprised and only added to the growing criticism of Shannon's recent choices. One user commented, "Shannon Sharpe ended his own career. There's no one else to blame." Another remarked, "Seems like he's just bitter that Barkley got the raise. Sounds like plain jealousy." The online response hasn't been supportive. Let's examine the broader sentiment. Is it jealousy? Maybe, because Charles Barkley is undeniably a legend. Whether or not you agree with his takes, he's consistent, entertaining, and unfiltered. Now, here's what makes this even more significant. Barkley isn't joining ESPN by himself. He's bringing the entire Inside the NBA team along. That includes Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny Smith, Ernie Johnson, and the full TNT production crew. Same format, same chemistry, same unscripted feel, just under ESPN's umbrella now.
Logo stamped on it.
And like I said, even though the name changes, the engine is still the same. And to that new network we coming to, we're not coming to F around. And since it's the last show, I'm gonna say it. We're not coming to F around. We kicking ass, we taking names, and we taking over.
So while Shannon was working to protect his spot, Barkley was organizing something on a much larger scale. This isn't just a step up, it's a major shift. ESPN didn't just bring in a single talent, they brought in an entire show. According to insiders, Barkley's new setup could reshape ESPN's NBA content and in the process, potentially push Sharpe and others further to the sidelines. There's even talk that Barkley might now have influence over future hires, giving him control, visibility, and leverage. The kind of position Shannon once had but might now be losing. Here's another theory gaining momentum. What if ESPN is allowing the tension between Sharpe and Barkley to play out on purpose? Controversy drives views. Disagreements keep audiences engaged. And with both personalities staying in the spotlight, ESPN could be quietly benefiting from the ongoing friction. Meanwhile, Shannon's public image continues to take hits. To make matters worse, some say his responses seem more emotional than strategic. Rumors point to his frustration over not receiving a raise comparable to Barkley's, and there's speculation that ESPN is slowly creating distance from him due to the ongoing legal case. Public opinion hasn't been kind. One viewer put it bluntly, Chuck's not out here chasing barely legal girls, he's earning his spot. Don't get mad. You fumbled your own bag. It's direct, but that view is gaining traction. And when it comes to placing blame, there's reportedly another name Shannon is pointing to, Shaquille O'Neal. Here's the twist: many didn't anticipate Shaq and Barkley are now stepping into the very territory Shannon once expected to own. Even though TNT lost its NBA broadcasting rights, Shaq and Barkley are landing comfortably right at ESPN, in roles many thought were reserved for Sharpe. And if you've been following along, you know the tension between Shaq and Shannon has been building slowly over time. Subtle remarks during broadcasts, quick comments in interviews, and the occasional post on social media, it's been a quiet rivalry. But now, it's beginning to look like Shaq may have had a long-term plan all along. Just a few weeks back, an audio clip surfaced, reportedly capturing a conversation between Shaquille O'Neal and a known media fixer, someone whose job often involves uncovering compromising details about public figures. In the recording, a voice sounding very much like Shaq is heard saying, "Find me something real on Shannon. I know it's out there. I want the kind of stuff that'll stick."
Ooh, let me work on that one right quick. That's a tough one.
All right, and remember, I'm paying top dollar for all that information. Love you, boy. Hey, don't tell nobody.
All right, one.
Not long after that leak, the lawsuit against Shannon was made public, and his public image began to suffer bit by bit. Was that just unfortunate timing or a calculated move? That's open to interpretation. Shannon was already under the microscope for questionable behavior off camera, and the timing of this development couldn't have been worse. Behind closed doors, ESPN executives are reportedly paying close attention. Though they continue to show support for Shannon publicly, internal discussions suggest they may be planning a shift. Meanwhile, Barkley's new NBA show has already been greenlit, and there are reports he'll have a say in selecting the on-air team. That development doesn't look promising for Shannon, who could be at risk of being phased out. Consider the logic. Why would ESPN keep someone at the center of controversy when they have Barkley, a proven ratings draw? ESPN's strategy clearly revolves around personality-led content. That's why they brought in Pat McAfee. That's why Stephen A. Smith has such a prominent role. And now, it seems Barkley is being positioned as their next big figure. According to insiders, Barkley is a key name in internal presentations. He's being marketed as the relatable face of NBA coverage, someone who speaks his mind, challenges conventions, and still pulls in strong advertising support. And this may be the root of the growing tension. Instead of focusing on repairing his reputation, Shannon is reportedly pushing back mainly against Barkley. But it's coming off more as a defensive move than a well-planned response. So, what lies ahead? Barkley has already stated his intention to retire in a few years. Until then, he's expected to enjoy a spotlight role at ESPN along with the financial benefits. As for Shannon, unless he actively addresses the legal situation and works to reshape how he's perceived, this could mark the start of a serious decline. He's had a successful run, but this moment could prove to be a critical turning point. That said, it's important to keep perspective. This might not be the end. Shannon still has name recognition and a strong fan base. If he's able to overcome the legal hurdles and shift the narrative, a comeback is possible, perhaps even similar to the rebound we've seen from someone like Joe Budden. Still, signs point to that ESPN chair potentially slipping away. Now the real questions emerge. Was Shannon Sharpe truly trying to stop Charles Barkley's move to ESPN? Or is that just a side story distracting from his own challenges? Is ESPN making the right decision by backing Barkley so heavily? And can Shannon turn things around, or has he lost his grip on this opportunity for good? Let us know what you think in the comments. This story is developing quickly and we'll be keeping a close eye on it. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next update. In the world of sports media, one misstep can change everything.